Let's talk about anxiety and depression and the increase of anxiety and depression with the use of social media and smartphones.
You're probably not moving. You're probably sedentary. You're probably indoors, and you're probably not with people. So all those three things are things we normally had every day. We were mostly outdoors, we were mostly moving, and we were mostly with people.
There's a common objection that I hear, just give it enough time and we'll be able to learn how to moderate it. How do you respond to that?
Your television does not have trillions of dollars of the most sophisticated psychological tactics fueled by algorithms that are watching and analyzing and pursuing you at every move. And I think we're all aware that we are getting sucked into these devices more than we'd like.
Hey everyone, thanks for joining us here on another episode of The Catholic Gentleman. So blessed that you have decided to join us. Today we've got this special interview with, I would call it an exclusive, but an expert, Andrew Laubacher of Humanality. So Andrew, thanks for being here with us today.
Excited to be here, John. It's going to be awesome stuff we're about to dive into.
I can't wait. So I know you were touring the country, you were doing major Catholic events, and then something inside of you said, I'm broken. Something's not working. What was that moment? I want to hear it.
Yeah, I mean, I had my kind of reversion back to my faith when I was 19, so lived a very secular rock and roll party lifestyle in high school. I'd say I was like your average partier, okay? It's like everyone, during that time is like, okay, we're not killing anybody. We're not that bad, of people.
That's right. And flying under the radar. Not exactly. Yep, I get it.
Yeah, it's like I wasn't like killing people. But, I definitely left my faith and ended up getting caught by the cops, had a reversion back to my faith. And yeah, I started playing guitar when I was 12. I played every instrument in every band genre you can imagine, and kind of put all that energy into worship, into Christian music. And that became my full-time ministry in life, out of Franciscan University, where I went to school. And yeah, it was nothing I was really looking to do, but God just started calling me. People started calling me to go play music and share my story. And then they're like, we're going to fly you and put you up at a hotel and pay you money. And I was like, what? This is awesome. And then they're going to fly out the whole band and we're going to play for all these people. This is great. And we get to pray. Like, this is awesome. So yeah, that was really my full-time life in ministry till 2020, but kind of along the way, I'm a millennial, so I was on all of your platforms. I got my flip phone in high school, the Razor, which was super dope, which everyone...
The Razor, I know.
Everyone needs to remember the Razor was a great phone. And but I got my iPhone.
I had one as well.
Yeah, I got my iPhone and got on Facebook and Instagram and Snapchat and Twitter. And that's all around 2010 is when a lot of those platforms came out. And pretty rapidly, which I've reflected on kind of a lot recently is I don't even remember the day that those platforms came into my life. They were just all of a sudden there and incredibly intrusive. And I was already incredibly addicted to them on multiple levels. And so I was showing everywhere. I was touring, playing music. And I was on all of these, building my followings on all these things. And along that time, experiencing the social comparison, the lust, just distraction, the waste of time. And again, the omnipresence thing I've realized was actually really detrimental. Like me being everywhere in the world in the palm of my hand was just not good for my brain. So I deleted everything in 2018. I went to a flip phone and so many things in my life improved, like my friendships, my purity, my prayer, my concentration, my productivity. I actually, that year, got more gigs around the world than I ever did when I had all the social media stuff. I was in Canada and South America and Europe and Jerusalem. And so, yeah, God really showed me like, hey, there's another way to live. And that's kind of how I've been living my life since.
Wow, I appreciate that story. So it's going to be very different from the majority of the listeners that are tuning in. But I think in my conversations with so many of them is that we all have this sense that we need what you pursued. But let me ask you, do you miss anything, not from an addictive standpoint, but like from a practical tool standpoint? Like, you know, there are certain benefits of this tool. However, it's been engineered and designed in such a way to just suck us in and keep us addicted. So, but is there anything that you like, Google Maps or something like? What about that?
Yeah, the tool aspect of technology is great, and that's what really Humanality is all about. So I'm the executive director for Humanality. We're an organization helping people be more fully human. And the way we're doing that is helping people detox from whatever your digital compulsions, addictions are, getting people outside, getting people moving, getting people sleeping better, getting off of these addictive devices, struggling with pornography, gaming, social media. I mean, there's so much, right? But yeah, like I went to a flip phone and I was getting lost like all the time, you know? So like I needed like my Garmin GPS that I bought. And,
Right.
you know,
Garmin. Wow. That brings me back. I used to have a Garmin as well. That's so good.
The tool aspect of these technologies is great. But what has happened is actually within the device now, tools have been mixed with entertainment. And entertainment, you know, has been mixed with productivity. And I think we're all aware that we are getting sucked into these devices more than we'd like. Your average teenager's on the device about 8 hours and 39 minutes a day. Black and Hispanic populations, sadly, low-income communities, are about 10 hours a day.
10 hours a day.
Yeah, your average American's in the 5 to 7 hour range, you know, depending on, I think, the day for most people. But
wow.
Yeah, the tools with the just endless information is overloading our capacities for concentration. Our attention spans have fallen below the goldfish, which is at 9 seconds. Our attention span is now at 8.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, there's pretty serious physiological, social issues unfolding. I believe we were in the realm of like around 60 minutes a day of FaceTime with human beings, like not FaceTime the app, but like face-to-face interaction.
Yeah.
It's down to about like 37 minutes a day. It's changing everything, right? So Neil Postman said in his
oh my goodness.
Yeah, Neil Postman said in his book, Amusing Ourselves to Death, that a new technology doesn't just change this or that, but it changes everything. So really what Humanality is kind of unpacking is like, how is technology changing everything? And how can you get your time and attention and your life back? And the funny thing is, particularly for men, I've talked to a few Catholic men. And what I love about Humanality, it's for the world. Like, it doesn't matter if you're religious, if you're on the left, if you're on the right. Like, if you're a human being and you're one of the 5.7 billion people that has a smartphone in the world, like, this is for you. But I remember this dad telling me, he's like, yeah, I went to a light phone and I got my life back. I got my marriage back. There's some pretty profound impacts, you know, that when people choose to use technology with intentionality and maybe get rid of some of these more toxic platforms, which you don't need to get rid of your calculator app. I think that's a very helpful app. But you might need to get rid of your TikTok, you know.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, I remember when I downloaded TikTok. So I'm a chief marketing officer for a day job. And when I downloaded TikTok, this was probably 5 years ago. I downloaded it just for like 7 days to see what it was, see how I could use it and leverage it for my clients. And I had to delete it. It was so addictive. It was so probing into lustful temptations. It was, I mean, just the doom scrolling on steroids, if that's possible,
sure.
You know, within the TikTok platform. And I remember thinking, well, if Satan owns social media, he definitely is showing his cards in TikTok. And so I couldn't, like, I was like, I can't learn on this platform. I am not a strong enough man to do that. So
no, it's a real thing. And obviously so many people in the business space, whether you're growing your own ministry or your own job or company, like we're stuck in what's called the collective action issue, right? So this network effect is what this is called. So this is why Uber and Lyft, you know, they have won the market with this network effect because the most people are on these platforms, which brings in incredible value. Right. So the reason these companies don't make money from us paying for their services, they make money by having ads that obviously like companies pay for to get views to sell their products or services, right? Which isn't inherently a bad thing. It's the medium itself and it's how these companies are structured and what they're doing that is creating such a toxic level of unhappiness, I would say. There's very few people that I hear after them scrolling for 4 hours feel like really satisfied and excited about their life. You know,
Few? Is there anyone?
I haven't heard it.
No.
I bet there's someone out there on the internet that's going to be like,
yeah.
I love doom scrolling, you know.
That's right.
But for the most part, these aren't interactions that are really making us happy, and we're stuck. So most companies are stuck because that's where you meet people. That's where people are. It's where you can advertise. You know, the exciting thing I'm doing with Humanality is actually we're not going to go on any social media platforms. I think podcasts are a great way to share information, but I'm hoping to build something different than these kind of traditional Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, like worlds that have now, you know, even LinkedIn, you know, is just getting insane.
It is.
So yeah.
If I could, there's a common objection that I hear when we start going down these conversations, or I start, which is like, well, this is just our times. Basically, like every time has had its own battles of, you know, anxiety and worries and concerns of new technologies, all the way to the novel, right? We didn't want to let our kids read novels because it would lead women into sexual, information that they were not prepared to. And then it went to radio and then TV. And now I hear that from certain generations, video games, et cetera, that like, this is just something that the human person will eventually be able to work through. And we're just in the heat of it right now. And so, you know, just give it enough time and we'll be able to learn how to moderate it. How do you respond to that argument, if you will?
Yeah, it's so wrong on so many levels. It's hard to know where to start. But where I would start,
Excellent.
I would start briefly with the idea, because this fear, you know, most people say, we were scared of the television. Our parents told us they were going to go blind. I think it's kind of hilarious right now. There are actually an incredible explosion of myopic diseases happening around the world because we're staring at screens so long, which is largely blue light science, what we can get into later. But so the fear of television, like what's happening in the palm of your hand with your smartphone or your iPad or even your laptop, wherever you're engaging with these technologies, is radically different than the television. One main point to be made there is that your television does not have trillions of dollars of the most sophisticated psychological tactics fueled by algorithms that are watching and analyzing and pursuing you at every move. Okay, so there's no television that ever did this. TV shows had a moment they were on, they had a time they were off. Your phone is literally listening to you. This isn't conspiratorial. If you have an iPhone or a smartphone, those are listening to you. It literally happened to my mom the other day. It was hilarious. We were in the kitchen. We were talking about saunas. The phone is off, not even in the room. That night on her feed, saunas. It was all saunas. You know, so
undoubtedly, I've had the same experiences myself, talking about barbecue and going to a barbecue restaurant, and then I jump over to Google Maps and I'm literally getting advertisements and or like pings of different barbecue joints, and I have absolutely not searched barbecue. It is frustrating.
So some people like
right?
that.
I mean,
some people like that. Some people like, I've realized, and there's
comfort and convenience, right?
They like the convenience, but they do like the accessibility that, like, knowing what your likes are and being served in that way facilitate. But so yeah, initial differences between television and what's happening now, completely different medium.
Thank you. Yeah.
Totally different medium. And there's literally, again, trillions of dollars behind your device that are analyzing, selling, and monetizing you. Like, you're the product. So that's a pretty stark difference than the television. Two, what's happening through these technologies, I think there's enough data now, and a lot of people have heard of Jonathan Haidt's book, The Anxious Generation, there's a whole slew of literature that's actually showing causal relationships between increased exposure to these platforms and poor mental health outcomes. So as you go down generationally, from boomers all the way down to Gen Z or Y or whatever it is now, I mean, the mental health deteriorates pretty rapidly, with Gen Z being kind of the all-time, worst. Suicidality, self-harm, anxiety, depression at all-time highs. In 2019, prior to COVID, there was over 200,000 deaths of despair in the U.S. This is drug, alcohol related. There is something, I think, horribly off with the way that we're living. And I think it is really largely correlated, not necessarily just the device, but how the device is interacting with the way that we think, behave, and relate to one another. Those three buckets are being so transformed by our day-to-day scrolling, day-to-day interactions, that I think there's enough data that shows in multiple books. Dr. Kardaras has written on this. Sherry Turkle, you have Gaia Bernstein in her book Unwired. There's a lot of data that is showing that the way we're interacting with each other and just the exposure to so much information, it's overwhelming our psyches. Like, we just weren't designed for this. In one day, you experience more information than anyone did in their entire life in the 1960s. In one day.
Wow, in one day. Oh my goodness. And you
Yeah.
went back how far? 1960s?
Yeah, Nicholas Carr says 1960, we were already starting to hit the limit.
Not too long ago. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Wow, there's a lot that we could go down here. I actually do want to talk some of these stats. I grabbed this quote from Proverbs: "He who is often reproved yet stiffens his neck will suddenly be broken beyond healing." And I feel like so many of us have fallen into that exact same trap when it comes to our smartphones. And so talk to us. We went through a lot, and there was a lot that you discussed, but I would actually like to let's talk about anxiety and depression and the increase of anxiety and depression with the use of social media and smartphones. What are some of the figures and stats? I mean, I know, going even as far, I have watched Social Dilemma. I have been a marketer for now over a decade. And so I do know the control. I do know the emotional manipulation that these social media platforms are playing on us. I want to hear from you. I want to get some of those thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, 68% of Gen Z feels, quote, "I feel lonely and that no one gets me." What's actually very interesting that is happening, that Jonathan Haidt writes about in some of his blogs, his articles, is that it's around 48% of teens wish that, like, TikTok and Instagram never existed. I think.
Wait, how many percent?
I think it was close to 48%. And then I think one of them was like almost over 50%. So it's like, it's very rare where a new technology comes out and a whole generation like wishes it never existed, right? It's not like when
I was just going to say that with TV, how many people were saying, "I wish the TV never existed"? I don't think it was 48%.
Yeah. Well, and it's also like, the washing machine and dryer came out, and it's not like we were up in arms about that, or our Instapots, or like, there's good development of technologies that make our life more convenient. But again, there's trade-offs in all of this. And Neil Postman talks about this too. These technologies have curses and blessings. And I think it's so confusing because there's so many blessings and then so many curses along with it. I think our company, our organization, our service to the world that people, are I think going to be willing to invest in and pay money for, is to learn how to use the blessings and how to get rid of the curses. And I think some of the depression, anxiety explosion that we're seeing is actually multifaceted. So it's actually not just what you're exposed to. I think that's a huge part of it. That could be a whole podcast just on us watching other people's minds share topics on everything you can ever imagine for 5 to 30-second bits. That has real neurological impacts on our dopamine, particularly. But I think it's what's happening. It's what is not happening when we're stuck scrolling or Netflixing like 6 episodes in a row, or stuck scrolling. You're probably not moving. you're probably sedentary, you're probably indoors, and you're probably not with people. So all those three things are things we normally had every day. We were mostly outdoors, we were mostly moving, and we were mostly with people. Anna Lemke talks about in her book Dopamine Nation that, even I don't know if it was 50 or 100 years ago, you worked about 6.5 days a week, 10 to 12 hours a day for 50 weeks out of the year, with maybe 2.5 hours of leisure a day, maybe. Now, our leisure time is about 5.5 hours. And what's funny is all these time-saving technologies like the car and the airplane and your washing machine and your dishes and all these actually really incredible technologies, we are putting that time that we have been given from these time-saving technologies wasted away back into our devices. So, John, I don't know if you've heard this in a while. I don't know the last time I've ever heard someone say, like, I'm not busy.
Oh, in fact, I have to correct myself, and I'm going to actually just do a shout out to Jeff Scheffelbein, partner here at Undivided
I love
Life.
Jeff.
We talk about that all the time because anytime somebody comes and he says, how are you doing?
It's busy, man.
Say, I'm busy. I'm so busy. Jeff is going to immediately correct them. And so it's such a great environment for me to be involved in here because I would argue 3 times a week, somebody asks me what I'm doing and I have to stop and think through how I'm doing. And I have to stop and think through and not just say I'm busy. Spot on. Absolutely. All the time.
It's not anyone's fault too. Here's what needs to be like.
Yeah.
A lot of people feel a lot of shame for their porn addiction, for their gaming addiction, for their social media scrolling. You can't stop watching Fox News or CNN or whatever your news station is, or just endless YouTube debates. This is all by design, right? So Gaia Bernstein talks about this in her book Unwired. She shares 3 reasons why we're kind of stuck, right, in this network effect, in this collective action issue. Because the reality is the science is out, like the data's out. I really believe that your life is going to be better, either completely off most of these platforms or incredibly minimal interaction. So the 3 ways that these companies are purposely, you have to think of these tech companies as big tobacco. So they are literally sharing the same playbook. Okay, so it's 3 pretty basic ways. Science wars. So just creating confusion with the data, right? The smartphone's not that bad. Social media is actually not affecting your mental health. It's Trump, it's like, it's our social economic status. It's inflation. So they're going to keep trying to persuade the public, sadly, through confusion and propaganda that these technologies are actually not that detrimental, right? So science wars is one of them. They bring up the First Amendment pretty regularly. And then also personal responsibility. So here's the fun one to me. They throw on us that, hey, this is your responsibility. You have to control the product. When in reality, they are giving us devices that we never asked for. I never signed any informed consent to my iPhone. I had no idea what that was going to do to me, but I took it and I started using it and it started using me and they said it's on me. And the reality is it isn't. I think this is actually on these companies that are purposely, doing this. And then again, I know so many businessmen, so many people in the workforce that are making good money running massive businesses from a smartphone, which is absolutely incredible that they can do that. So it's hard, right? Because they've given us, Dr. Kardaras talks about like our honey-coated, digital cages that we're all in. It tastes really good to scroll and to have access to everything you could ever want, right? But we haven't questioned, like, is this access good? And is this good for our health? Is this good for our happiness? And I would contend no.
Yes, I would agree. And I want to, 2 things that I want to bring up here. The first one is that goldfish comment that you made. I want to go back to that. And the second one that I want to make sure that we have time to talk about is the power of boredom. And because you said there's a lot of things that you're likely not doing. And one of the first thing that came to mind when you said that was you're not being bored. And I think that when it comes to a father looking at his kids, we ourselves have fallen into this trap where we think our kids shouldn't be bored because we ourselves don't know how to relish and how to embrace boredom. And so when our kids come to us and they're looking for something to do, I've actually had to, with my wife, sit down and put together phrases that we're going to use of like, I'm so excited that you're bored. I wonder what you're going to do with this time. And we'll say things like that. But I want to go back. So talk about our attention spans as goldfish first, and then we'll dive into boredom here. So what did you mean by that? And what are some of those seconds and some of those awareness? Because I do know I used to work for a learning content management system company now, 12, 15 years ago. And those psychological researches was coming out of this idea of like individuals. This is 12 to 14 years ago. The researchers were already coming out of like, individuals can't read a book anymore. Individuals can't sit down and take a test. And so we just have to create content, again, learning content management system. So it was a whole form and medium in which to communicate content and education to somebody. But it has to be, can't be longer than 5 seconds. Like we can't require them to watch a video longer than 2 to 3 minutes and then switch over. This is 14 years ago.
Yeah.
And so I want to hear from you what you were talking about. This goldfish comment was shocking to me.
Yeah, Dr. Kardaras he's on our board of advisors for Humanality. He has a tech addiction clinic in Austin, Texas. His two main books are Glow Kids and Digital Madness. Now, Glow Kids goes into the depth of this, at least screen time being totally correlated to ADHD and many other mental health issues. But I think the couple mechanisms that are at play are as such. So one, we're incredibly distracted because there's so much happening on our device. The average person and an adult today is, I think they're in the 70 realm texts a day. Your average teenager is 167 texts a day. I mean,
167.
Yeah, we're talking about.
Wait, let me check. No.
No, I mean we're looking at the device, just glances 325 times a day. That's almost every 2 minutes and 45 seconds. We are literally training our brains to be distracted and actually to stay on task and to go back to a task once you get distracted is at least 20 minutes. So think about this. Every time you're doing a task and you get distracted, your cognitive capacities need 20 minutes to get back on task. So
focus, that deep work. Yeah, I remember reading that.
Yeah, Cal Newport's got a lot of great stuff on this, and the data is pretty clear. Catherine Price wrote a book called How to Break Up with Your Phone, which actually goes into a lot of the notification world. So think of your red badges, think of your on your phone. I mean, down to the color, every ping, every ding. This is all training our brains to actually be in a heightened stress state. So Dr. Vivek Murthy wrote a book called Together. He was the Surgeon General of the United States last year. He called for warning labels on social media platforms, just like they did for cigarettes. And I think largely this is because, and I talk to teachers, I'm hearing this stuff all over the world, but I mean, students can't focus. They can't enter into any type of depth on any level. So just even the Apple Watch, anything that's going to grab your attention through a ding or through a notification is going to disrupt our normal capacities. Even our memory consolidation skills are getting diminished. Learning on multiple levels is being diminished. There's multiple ways that while the hyperconnectivity feels great, there's no such thing as multitasking. So we love to talk about that. We're doing so many things and I find me, doing this myself. I use a computer, I use technology. I use it very intentionally and I know my kryptonites, if I have YouTube just on the little tab there, that's not going to be good for me, because I'm going to just look and it's going to be 6 million different things. So the notifications, the amount of information, and the constant connectivity is a perfect storm that is really diminishing, our capacity for deep work, for boredom. It's hilarious. Steve Jobs, of all people, prioritized and even spoke of the benefit of boredom. And in 2010, Steve Jobs was asked, how are your children loving the new iPad? And he said, we don't give it to our kids, we limit their technology. So if the makers aren't getting high on their own supply, I think that's something to acknowledge. And also, every big tech founder, this is Zuckerberg, this is Eric Schmidt at Google, this is Jobs, this is Bezos. They all went to what's called Waldorf schools, which are
I've heard that. Yeah.
low tech to zero technology schools. So when parents are like, I need my, AI is coming out, my kids need to be on everything and, be ready for what's coming. It's actually the complete opposite. If you have cognitive skill sets outside of these technologies that are developed, you're actually probably going to be able to utilize them way more. Because right now, young people can't even handle basic human tasks of communication.
Agreed. They have no agency. Like, they don't even know, and they're like incredibly dependent on these devices to help them just get through the day. Yes, all the other addictive tendencies and social issues, and you go from TikTok being fed everything under the sun, in short sound bites, and entertainment burst and dopamine hits, and then you go to Instagram and you see everybody's perfect image of themselves being posted.
Totally.
And so exactly, so it's, I'm just going to bring this up here, if the science is out, if the proof is out, why are we still debating this?
Yeah,
let's just go there.
It's a great question. I think why Humanality's work is so important is because this is so overwhelming for most people. Because your work's there, you have so many things you do there. Here's what people need to understand. These social platforms, all of them, have used intensely historical, scientifically tested psychological tactics to addict you to their products. Two major ways that they do that. One, I can't emphasize enough. It's called social approval. You and me are social animals. This is like so deeply ingrained in us. So the reason we can't stop watching YouTube and scrolling on Twitter and watching every debate and every conversation is because our brains, Dr. Lieberman talks about this at UCLA, a neuroscientist. He says that when our brain takes a break maybe from something, it's almost a reflex that the brain goes to thinking about social things. This is very interesting. So our brain actually goes to start to think about people, and it's almost a natural reflex. So we are so socially driven that these platforms exploit that to a degree that we actually think we're getting benefit. This is what's super interesting. We like the feeling of seeing what our friends are doing, of seeing what other people, and yeah, maybe there's some unfortunate stuff that you don't want to scroll, but there's a deep fear now in most people that if they get off these platforms, they're going to feel more alone, which statistically there's more people lonely today than ever before, which I find fascinating because we're more connected than ever before. But the fear is so deeply ingrained in our human psychology that most people don't think they can live life without it. Within reality, I don't use Facebook Marketplace. I know that could be a super great thing. I have friendships that are over the phone. We call, I see them in person. I don't hear from them. If they don't call me and I don't call them, and that's okay. There's a lot of ways you can have an incredibly fulfilling life without interacting with a lot of these platforms. But I think the reason why we feel so stuck is, again, they are really preying upon social approval. And there's a few other mechanisms we can talk about, but that's kind of the biggest one.
Great. So what were the numbers again? What is a goldfish attention span, and what is ours on average now?
Yeah, it's 9 is the goldfish, and we're at 8.
9 seconds, 8 seconds. 8 seconds.
Yeah.
We can't get past that. Oh man. And tell me, when you gave up your smartphone, what were some of the benefits that you became aware of?
Yeah, I definitely had. So there's actual real withdrawal symptoms. So like, this sounds hilarious, but there's now a clinical diagnosis called nomophobia, which is literally fear of not having your phone next to you. This is like a real diagnosis.
Yeah.
I've heard of a lot of stories now from, kids even on retreats that have to give up their phone, go on to full panic attacks.
Wow.
And so it's an actual real appendage to us now. This is part of us. There's so many more deeper things, John, we can't go into right now, but literally our personalities are being formed. So Nicholas Carr has this idea of what he calls digital overcrowding. So our minds were never designed to interact with this amount of information slash people. Our minds never did this. So there's a digital overcrowding happening, which I think is obviously why we're stressed. Our personalities are being manipulated. Personalities are formed in a community with other people sharing life. Now
Oh, say that again.
I don't even really know what I just said.
Yeah. Relationships are formed in a
Relationship,
community. Yeah.
right? Like with people in real life. Now
Yeah.
that these relationships are now disseminated through this medium, the way that we interact as humans is we care what people think, and other minds' input shapes our thinking. So there's such a depth of what's happening, but the attention issue, I think, is like one aspect that I think is important to talk about. But I do think what's, to me, more drastic uh, and shifting so radically that, once AI comes out, I don't know if we stand much of a chance,
I would agree.
in multiple
In fact,
levels. But our friendships are so deeply shifting and changing in such a drastic way that, um, I don't think we can handle this many friends. And one of the things that improved rapidly when I got off of these things was my friendships. And actually, I think it's Robin Dunbar talks about the Dunbar number. So this is actually the amount. I think he's an evolutionary psychologist. This is the actual amount of friendships you can facilitate. Do you want to know what that number is?
yeah, what I do.
It's 150 acquaintances. These are people you have some relationship with. The next circle in is about 50. These are a little bit more, consistent friendships, still
Sure.
acquaintances. And then it's like 15. And then it's like five intimate friendships is really what we can facilitate. Now, the lie on all these social platforms is that you have thousands of friends.
Friends. We sure do.
And here's what's happening. Even my best friends around the country, once I got off all these things, I didn't really hear from them much, because now we know what everyone's doing. We feel no need to actually catch up. There's no such thing as catching up. You don't have to catch up.
Yeah.
So one thing that happened to me right after, which was so fun, is that I got to catch up with people all the time. People still don't know where I am. People think I still live in Dallas. People think I'm in Florida. Some people still think I'm in seminary. Like, no one really knows where I am, which is awesome. But my friendships
Yeah.
improved so drastically. That was definitely a highlight for sure. And it's been a highlight over the years.
Excellent. So tell me some other things. I know that I heard this was something that affected you, pornography,
Oh yeah.
but there's a connection here, right, with dopamine and our smartphone. And I heard you say on another episode or another conversation that you were having that it's very similar, right? Like intercourse is got a similar dopamine hit as smartphone. What are those metrics? What do those look
Yeah,
like?
no, it's actually gaming. It was actually a gaming study in 1998.
Gaming study.
A
Okay, in 98.
1998 video game. So this isn't Fortnite.
Okay.
This isn't Call of Duty. This is 1998 video games.
Nintendo
Increased.
64. Yeah, Zelda Ocarina of Time. That's what we're talking about here. Yep, exactly. Okay.
So yeah, sex has about 100% dopaminergic increase in the brain.
Okay, thank you.
1998 video games had a 100% dopaminergic increase in the brain. So Dr. Kardarsh talks about this too. Sex is usually a time limited thing,
Yeah,
for most people.
agreed.
Gaming, you can game for 12 hours straight and not come down.
Oh man.
So it's a very
Wow.
different experience that, there's 60 million people addicted to gaming around the world. I love to play FIFA. FIFA is kind of like my go-to video game. So like, If I'm in a friend's house, I got a friend's house in Dallas that like when I'm there, we play FIFA. I got a friend in Denver, like when I'm there, we play some FIFA. It's not like you can't interact with like movies or a Netflix show or anything on your phone, but if your interaction and relationship with these platforms is to that level where it's taking you away from your life. That's what addiction is. All addiction science is very simple. Is it affecting your day-to-day activities, relationships, and health? And if it is, you're probably addicted. So yeah.
Yeah, and if I had to be honest, so there's something that I have brought up previously on shows is that when I go home, I put my smartphone down and I don't touch it until
Mm-hmm.
after my kids are in bed. And on Sundays, I generally I always put my smartphone down,
Awesome.
and I'll come to it just a couple times on Sundays. You know, it is awesome, except for the fact I'm going to argue it's not enough. If I'm being honest, there's a part of me that is eager to see my phone after my kids go to bed.
Oh, for sure.
And so that in it of itself distracts me from being fully present to my children. It's not so much, it used to be this idea of like, okay, well, when are my kids going to bed? And there's like a countdown clock that's going on. It's okay, their bedtime's at 8:30, it's 7:00, so probably around 9:00 I'll be able to check my phone, right? That sort of thing. But and so let's 8:30 couldn't come soon enough, right? Like that sort of feeling. That has changed completely. I would say it took a couple of years of like disassociating myself in these situations. But now there's still that like, wait, what if somebody is trying to what if somebody at work is trying to connect with me, right? There's always these justifications, right? There's like this magnet attraction to our phones that keeps us from being present to the people physically in front of us. And so, and I hate it. And I think that I'd love to hear, I honestly, in preparation for this episode, I was like, man, I just need to delete all the stuff. I need to go to the flip phone itself, right? I told my wife that. I was like, I think we just need to. She doesn't have social media. My wife has never had social media.
Wow.
She's been pretty amazing, and she is amazing. And so, but talk to me about, direct me as from Humanality, because like I would say, it took me a couple years, honestly, to get away from that awareness of what time it was for my kids to go in bed to now it's still there in the sense of what if this fear of missing out, right? Like you're saying.
Yeah.
And I suppose if I didn't have the ability to reach for my smartphone at 9:00, I'd be going through all sorts of withdrawals. And so, yeah, is it not enough? And what needs to be done to really take control of your life again?
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's getting back in control, like getting our free will back. I really believe these platforms are destroying our free will. I mean, there's no kind of other way to say it. Felicia Wu Song, in her book Restless Devices, says that we are forever elsewhere. Cal Newport.
There it is. That's exactly what I was just saying. That's exactly right. We're forever elsewhere. Wow.
Yeah, Cal Newport says we weren't wired to be constantly wired. And Adam Atler, in his book Irresistible, he talks about how a lot of this, and this was me too, it was to soothe psychological stress. So most of us are stressed out as parents, as adults, as teenagers. These platforms are incredibly numbing, actually. So there's actually been some studies done on like what is the word? It's anesthetic, like capacities of virtual gaming, where like they showed burn victims and they like let them play video games and like they didn't need to use as much like opioids to like numb the pain.
Wow.
So I think a lot of these platforms are honestly numbing psychological stress, and I'll never forget. I share this a lot, but. Please. And then I want to get to the solution that Humanality is, because to me it's the most.
Yes, I do too.
It's the most exciting part about all this conversation, because it's really depressing, but it's going to get really exciting. But I do remember I was on a flight. This girl next to me was literally scrolling the entire flight. I'm talking wheels up to wheels down. We land. I get my light phone out. I'm texting, my ride. Hey, I need a ride. And she's like, "What is that?" She's in shock. I was like, "It's my light phone. It's my cell phone." She's like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so addicted to my phone." And in my head, I'm like, yeah, I noticed,
I witnessed.
I didn't say that,
Yeah,
but I did kind of,
yeah.
watch what she was scrolling. It was nonstop. It wasn't even like looking at, I mean, she was in a dopamine like loop, right? And she just said something I'll never forget. She said, I can't be alone with my thoughts for just 1 second. And there's studies that actually confirm this. There was a Harvard study that was done with participants. They were asked to be in a room for 15 minutes and they were administered a shock while they're in the room. And then they were asked to just be by themselves for 15 minutes and they could administer a shock if they wanted to. One student shocked himself over like 169 times because he couldn't stand being with himself.
Man.
Isn't this wild?
Wow.
So
it is wild.
Yeah, we don't like to be with ourselves. Again, it's a plethora of communication needs. Yes, some mothers are obviously scared about getting a hold of their children or staying in touch with their spouse, or like there's practical things that like everyone needs to find out how to pick up the kids from school. And but the fallout along with that is pretty extensive. So here's the good news. There's ways to put technology back in its proper place and get your life back. And here's kind of how Humanality does it. So
excellent. I want to hear this. And real quick, before we do that, I want all of our listeners, if you're a husband, if you're a father, if you're a wife, or if you're a mother, put yourself in these shoes and be reflecting on how to get control over, for the sake of your marriage, for the sake of your children's lives. I want to just frame it as such. And so, yeah, please tell us the great news of Humanality, and let's see this as a challenge to all of our listeners.
Yeah, we're taking on this problem head on, and essentially what you're going to get when you create what I call a Humanality village. The whole idea is, how do we get back to our local environments with the people that are around us? And I've seen so many couples at restaurants on phones scrolling, kids with their parents, everyone's scrolling like, and if that's you, this isn't like to shame you. Like you shouldn't actually feel bad about this, but you can make a change. And I would say some of your marriages, some of your relationships, your purity. I mean, most married men are struggling with pornography. This is not like there's more traffic to pornographic sites each month than Amazon, TikTok, Zoom, and OpenAI combined. So like all these issues, these aren't like minuscule things, so I don't want to like diminish what I think, really is kind of the most important aspects of your life, which is what are you giving your time to and what are you giving your attention to? And Humanality's mission is to help you get both of those back. So the way that you do it is you join a Humanality village. We compiled MDs, PhDs, psychologists, myself, unpacking all the science in these 11 Humanality ways to be more fully human. So for example, these are like be light. It goes into light science. It goes into blue light science. It goes into sleep. It goes into your lighting environment, which is a technology, right? Children are inside more than some maximum security prisons. There's some really gnarly stuff with that.
Stat. Yeah, that is. Mm-hmm.
So each episode unpacks problems and solutions. So be connected, be outside, be moving, be present, be silent. Each episode unpacks how you can implement this human way of living back into your life. And I think, honestly, if you live these out, they'll change your life 100%. So you watch an episode, you get together, you join a village. It could be you and your moms, you and families, you and your friends. We're launching into high schools. We're launching into universities. Eventually we'll get into businesses because productivity is like getting destroyed at the business level. But you'll essentially go through an episode. You have a journal workbook, which you create your digital plan of life. We have like every resource you can imagine to help you either get another device, like a light phone or a Wise Phone 2, dumbify your smartphone. We have all these privacy resources, porn blockers, the whole shebang. And you start to take on these real life victories, we call them, which could be like phone-free meals. So you got your Humanality water bottle. if you complete a week of phone-free meals, you get the phone-free meal sticker. It goes on your water bottle. You accomplish that. That's your real life victory. That's a big deal. If you eat your meals just without a device, you're going to get at least like 50 hours back, in your life, just in like a couple months. Um, and then along with that, the villages as a group together, again, friends or family, you take on these community adventures. These are like screen-free Sundays. You go on phone-free hikes. We have sauna and ice bath stickers. You can go to a concert. You can learn how to cook a recipe. You can go learn to dance. It's all these human things that we're just not doing anymore. And you don't have to capture them. You get to live them. So one of them is also a photo fast. You are literally allowed to take one photo a day. And the rest of your life, you just get to live. So all these are backed by science. All these are behavior change habits that you can enact. And really what makes Humanality, I think, so effective, two major ingredients to behavior change that don't exist on an app. They don't exist on, any of these other platforms, and even like the brick, these other things that I get people are trying to find solutions, but you need to change your environment and you need accountability. And those two things you can only get in person. So the Humanality Village experience is designed to be in person. And again, we're not against technology. We're all about how do we use it intentionally. So in about a month, this is going to be available. We've only been at universities till now, but we're doing a general launch to really the world. And if you're a parent, if you have teenagers, if you're a young adult, if you're 90 years old and you need help with this, you're going to be able to go through our movement.
Which is everyone. And so if we're being honest, if you're listening to this episode, chances are you need help with this. We bring it up all the time on the show. If the Holy Spirit is calling you in this moment to do something other than listen to this episode, stop listening to this episode or whatever episodes or shows you're listening to and do something. Mm-hmm. And so do something productive with your life. And not that listening to podcasts is unproductive. At times it can be very productive. But my point is that are we talking to the Holy Spirit? Are we receiving that information from him? Or are we just being drowning out, filling ourselves with noise to drown out our own thoughts? Now, you called it, what did you say, your digital rule of life? Is that what you called it?
Yeah, it's a digital plan of life.
Plan of life. What does that mean exactly?
So we break down like to your device. So you pick what device you're going to use. You create the infrastructure of what your phone's going to look like what apps need to be taken off. You simplify, reorganize, delete stuff on your app. We create these little tech-free zones. So you identify what zones in your home are going to be tech-free. You go on a daily dose, a distancing dose. So every day, part of your digital plan of life is going to be how many minutes do you want to be completely separated from your device every day. So it could be 5 minutes. It could be 10 minutes. And then we have a desert day as well. So this is 1 day a month where you literally just don't look at your device. So your digital plan of life, you'll choose what device you're using. You'll pick a mode. So we have 3 modes. These are kind of fun. You have human mode, you have rebel mode, and you have savage mode. Okay, so human mode is just a dummified smartphone. So it's essentially just your basic tools. You can keep your podcasts and your maps and your email, but social media platforms are off, gaming platforms are off, and it's grayscaled. Rebel mode is you going to a different device. You go to the light phone or you go to the wise phone. Savage mode, I think we had like 2 students do once, which is no cell phone, and you just use your computer as your form of communication. So if you want to go savage mode, we will support that, but we'll help you create the plan. This is what's missing. No one's making a plan with this stuff, right? It's just
agreed. They don't the incremental steps to get there. That's exactly right. Like we just try and go cold turkey, which is guaranteed to fail.
Yeah, this is a sustainable.
Do not have the discipline. Yeah,
it's a real sustainable way to live with technology, and that's the thing. It's like you don't have to get rid of it completely, but there are some things you probably do need to get rid of, or just minimize. We share about virtue. In the curriculum, we go deep dive into virtue. Yeah, we talk about the effects of these platforms on our social health, physical health, emotional health. It is so incredibly jam packed. I'm like so excited for the world to see this because it's mostly just been some college students, But it's a really exciting time for us.
Yeah, I love it. And so I would encourage our listeners to head over to humanality.com. Is that correct?
.org.
.org. Thank you. I'll put it in the show notes, but let's correct that. Humanality.org. I know there's little things. I grabbed a stat that I think grayscaling your phone reduces checking it by almost 50%, right? It's like just these little things can be huge benefits. I know I did grayscaling throughout one Lent, and it was great. But then, like on Sunday, I'd find myself trying to release myself of that grayscale, because of the addictive tendencies. And I get it. I think that's so exciting. What are some of the final words that you would like to leave our listeners with? Words of encouragement, words of challenge.
Yeah, I know what it's like to be addicted to a lot of these things. I know the pain, I know the escape, I know the loneliness. I've experienced pretty deep levels of loneliness, in my life. And I've turned to technologies and other things to soothe that. And I just want to encourage people that, you can make a difference. You don't have to be addicted to these things the rest of your life. You can get your time back. And yeah, I want people to be happy and healthy and holy and free. And I think there's a lot to be said for taking a leap of faith. I really want to encourage people to take that leap. And that could literally be just like something simple. Like you don't have to go like I did to, full flip phone. Like start today and tonight, put your phone to bed at 8 p.m. Like literally put it in a drawer, put it to bed, and then you have 2 hours before you go to sleep. Just be with yourself, be with your family, have a cup of tea, read a book, talk to somebody in person. Like just start small. But I would encourage people to take some leaps. Like so many amazing things have opened up in my life, even in my professional life, running this organization, that I would not be able to accomplish if I was on all these technologies all the time. So when you get your time back, there's a lot of exciting things you can do with them that doesn't involve yourself, right? I think a lot of these technologies are just leading us to ourselves, and true joy and fulfillment comes from self-gift. And you will find your life if you lose it. And I think if we can start losing our life a little bit more in nature, serving others, getting outside, eating real food, exercising, praying, our lives are going to be so much more exciting.
That's right. You'll find your life if you lose it. And so much of our lives is on the smartphone. So let's lose that so that we can find it.
You can do that too. We will support this. You can break your smartphone. We support that too.
I think it's so great. You said 2 hours. Is that right? I like that challenge. 2 hours before bed, like you put your phone somewhere else, and for 2 hours before bed, you're not going to look at it. Was that the challenge that you just mentioned?
I think that's just like, to me, that's just is like a fun thing you can try and just see what it's like.
I think you should. So at the end of every one of our episodes, we have a putting on the new man section, which is literally the weekly challenge. And so we found the weekly challenge. You heard it directly from Andrew. The weekly challenge is for the next 7 days, 2 hours before bed. If you go to bed at 10:30, by 8:30, you are not going to look at your phone. And then you're going to go to bed. You're going to go to bed at 10:30. That's the challenge for all men. You are going to act in faith that the world is not going to crumble by you not looking at your phone. You're also going to act in faith that the world, frankly, doesn't care about you that much, right? And I think that's one of the huge benefits. And we're all about humility here. And I think one of the huge benefits of practicing these fasts, I don't like using the word fast for the digital devices, practicing these abstinences, practicing removing ourselves from these, is that you gain this less sense of your own self,
vainglory essentially is the temptation.
Vainglory. Thank you. Yeah. Absolutely. That is the temptation. We just think everybody is watching us and wants to hear from us and wants to be involved in what we have to do. And oh my goodness, if I don't post in 2 days, look out, like people are going to care. And I would imagine the majority of people who think like that, if you gave it up for 30 days, the device is designed in such a way that you will be forgotten because they are working to make the person addicted elsewhere. So Andrew, what a blessing. I'm so grateful for the time that we have had. I encourage all of our listeners to head over to Humanality. I'm going to put that link in the show notes. It's humanality.org, and check out what they're doing. It is incredible work. Please say a prayer for them and a prayer for Humanality, the lives that they're going to be able to change. This is the time in which we live. This is the time in which we need to combat. This is the time that God chose us to till the earth and to nourish the garden. And so it is the challenge for everyone. So Andrew, thank you so very much for your insights, for your wisdom, and for your direction today.
Happy to be here, John, and go through the interwebs to get people in reality.
Amen. Bring them into reality. Thanks be to God. So as we end each of our episodes, be a man, be a saint.